Hello, and welcome to one of my deck tech videos. Today we're going to be going over an Olivia Crimson Bride deck. She has Flying and Haste, and whenever she attacks, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped and attacking. It gains whenever you don't control a legendary vampire, exile this creature. So this deck revolves around Olivia and getting those abilities and pretty much winning the game outright because of her reanimation abilities. So we're going to go into what the game plan is for this deck. It first begins with an Entomb, and pretty much we'll use Entomb, Buried Alive, Unmarked Grave, any of that to put in one of our combos or just a heavy creature to completely destroy our opponents like It That Betrays. Next we'll go into one of our combos. It begins with Port Razer and a Sac Outlet. So we'll pretty much Entomb Port Razer like usual and go into combat with Olivia. So we'll go to combat, return Port Razer to the battlefield, tapped and attacking. And he says whenever he deals combat damage to a player, untap each creature you control. After this combat phase, there's an additional combat phase. And he says can't attack a player that has already attacked this turn. So pretty much we're going to swing in with Crimson Bride and Port Razer, and then we're going to get an additional combat sack Port Razer because of that second half of his ability where he can't attack a player that's already attacked, and return it to the battlefield during our next combat with Olivia, and keep doing that over and over again and hammer our opponents until they're dead. And with Goblin Bombardment, we can pin down any of the blockers because it deals 1 damage to any target after you sacrifice Port Razor, and you just keep doing that over and over and the game outright. Next, we'll go into some of our sack outlets, Viserys here, Altar of Dementia, and Goblin Bombardment, of course. And with Altar, it's a very good sack outlet because you can mill yourself and your opponents, like if they Empiric Tutor or Mystical Tutor, any of those, and you can just completely shut them down, or just if you need to put creatures in your graveyard, there you go. And then Viserys here is also good if you need to get those scries in. Next is another combo, which includes Godo. It isn't an instant win, but it sets you up for win in the future. So we'll Entomb Godo, attack with Olivia, and put him onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. And then Helm of the Host will also search for because of Godo's ability and put it on the field. And we can just hammer down our opponents right there. Next turn, you attach Helm of the Host to Godo and win the game. Our next combo includes Kiki-Jiki and or Combat Celebrant and Port Razer. So this doesn't really rely on Olivia as much. It's just a backup combo in case Olivia gets shut down completely. So we'll play Kiki-Jiki in Combat Celebrant, activate Kiki-Jiki, creating a token copy of Combat Celebrant and exerting him. And then we'll get an additional combat, which will untap Kiki-Jiki, and then you can keep doing that infinitely and win the game. And then with Port Razer, you can create a copy of Port Razer, you get an additional combat and keep continually doing that as well. Next are our combat-based wins. You have If That Betrays and Blightsteel Colossus. Blightsteel can one-shot anybody. It's a shuffle titan, so if you're in desperate need of shuffling your graveyard back into your library, you should be fine. And then If That Betrays will shut down our opponents over time. Great grind strat. And because If That Betrays is so good, you get all the sacks that occur, including fetch lands, any sack-based decks, aristocrats decks, anything you can take advantage of. And then we have Embercleave to pile on additional damage, and Tainted Strike to put on If That Betrays or any other big creature you want to add to this deck. Nothing in this deck is set in stone. You can add whatever creatures you like that you just want to slam people in the face with. Next are some of our discard outlets and entombers. So we have Toretti, Valakut Awakening, Cathartic Reunion, Real Possibility, Mesmeric Orb, which is a really good artifact because it shuts down some of our opponents that rely on their deck heavily. Because whenever a permanent becomes untapped, that permanent's controller mills a card. This includes lands, tokens. So if there's a token, mass token army strategy, the next turn they untap, they're milling 10 cards or so. And with lands, people are going to be milling all the time, and you're going to be self-milling, putting essential creatures in your graveyard to return with Olivia. And then we have Liliana, just a good strat to reduce our opponent's card advantage. Unmarked Grave, put non-legendary creatures in our graveyard. Buried Alive does 3 creatures. Entomb does any card. And Dark Deal, just a black wheel that reduces cards. Well, reduces the amount of cards by 1. whenever you do that wheel. Next, we have our ramp. This is a very ramp heavy deck because of Olivia's high mana cost. And we'll start with Talisman of Indulgence, Culling the Weak, Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, which we should be able to get that threshold value, Milliken, Bilwar Stone, Ornithopter of Paradise, Mana Vault, Dockside, which we'll be searching for 9 times out of 10 just to get that ramp. Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Rakdos Signet, Gemstone Caverns, Chrome Mox, Lotus Petal, Simian Spirit Guide, and Jeweled Lotus, of course, to get Olivia out as fast as possible. Next, we have our tutors: Vampiric Tutor, Demonic Tutor, Wishclaw Talisman, Mausoleum Secrets, definitely a secret rare uh, tutor card that nobody knows about. It's very good in graveyard strategies because you may search your library for a black card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Since we're going to be self-milling and discarding creatures, we should be able to take advantage of this. And then we have Gamble and Final Parting, which says search your library for 2 cards, put one into your hand and the other into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. You can get a protection spell, and you can put a card in your graveyard that you really need to win, and just complete a combo and win the game. Next, we have some of our notable creatures: Dragon's Rage Channeler, Imperial Recruiter to get Dockside Extortionist most of the time, Angie, Belden of the Third Path, a backup to Olivia in case that gets completely shut down, Mindblade Render, early card advantage, Dothy to shut down graveyard strategies, not including our own, Opposition Agent, one of the most hated stacks pieces ever, but we need it, Azra Oddsmaker, another discard outlet and draw. Mayhem Devil shuts down fetch lands and can pin down our opponents. Massacre Worm, a great board wipe and recursion target. Next, we have some of our interaction / protection pieces. Bedevil, Imp's Mischief, pretty much the only black counterspell that's actually relevant. A Braid, Dismember, Infernal Grasp, Fire Covenant, a great board wipe card. Can pin down specific targets, and I mean, you take life as a toll, but it's worth it. Toxic Deluge, board wipe, and deflecting SWAT to protect your combos. Then we have the final card and most essential card, Underworld Breach. So pretty much since we're putting cards in our graveyard and we rely upon that so heavily, if we can get Underworld Breach down midway through the game, if it's getting grindy, we should be able to take full advantage of it and possibly win the game from it, turning in the tables. So in conclusion, there are cards that are not mentioned in the deck that are on the deck list, and they're pretty much interchangeable. You can change out the creatures, anything that suits you. It's all up to what you want to do. So if you like the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know what videos you would like to see in the future, and I'll catch you next time.